Welcome back. And Daily Heritage starts this morning and says NDC 2016 campaign was unfair, says Agbeshi Nuchu, as he ravishes tree campaign in the Volta region. Daily Guide says Dumelo busted with missing cars. Photograph of the car in here. We're told also on the Daily Guide that Mahama Boys Under Fire, Accra Mayor approved, and I peddled lies about Nanado. That's from Kojo Tumbuafo. The Ghanaian Times, resource institutions to fight corruption. That's from Shraj. And then Daily Graphic, 12% Ghanaians jobless, says Statistical Service. And Kintampo Waterfalls tragedy, the story is in here. Cocoa money, education played a role in independence struggle. The Speaker of Parliament is talking there. Gold Street Business, Ghana's market share to Canada declining, and other papers are here. My guest to do the conversation this morning is the director of Drolo Center for Strategic Leadership, Dr. S.B. Ofe. Dr. Ofe, good morning.
Good morning.
And hope you're doing great.
Hi.
Thanks so much for joining us. And then Kojo Poku talks a lot about energy. He's also with me here. Good morning, Kojo.
Good morning,
hope you're doing
How
great.
are you? I'm very well.
I am
Friday, what can we complain? If I knew we were wearing smoke, I
would have done
brought my smoke.
Okay, all right, I'm grateful. And then a lecturer at the University of Education, senior lecturer, University of Education, Winneba, Dr. Ahmed Chinapado. Good morning too. I hope you're doing great.
Yes, sir.
Thanks so much for joining us. Let's start our conversation this morning and take a look at this story, starting with the issue of the missing car. Daily Guide has this story here. The story says that national security operatives have caught popular movie actor John Dumelo with a vehicle belonging to the state and retrieved it from a spraying shop. The story is suggesting that Dumelo was allegedly attempting to conceal the identity of a black V8 Toyota Land Cruiser with registration number GE811816 when the operatives pounced on it at a garage at Abiling Pay in Accra, where it had purportedly been sent for respraying. The vehicle had the chassis number is here. We're told that the paper says there are two vehicles involved in this. Again, the paper is suggesting that when he was reached via telephone for his comments, Mr. Dumelo said he would not like to comment about it. And that's the story on the front page. But quickly, let me touch on this one. Now, we're told also that last week, Mr. Ikotu, who was the chairman of the Assets and Vehicles Committee for the NPP side of the transition team, confirmed that about 234 vehicles out of the list of over 700 presented to the NPP government by the NDC were missing. They were able to identify 67 of them. And so if you take 67 out of 301, 234 could not be accounted for. That's the story so far. Dr. Jinapo, let me start with you. Now, the missing cars won't go away today, but some have suggested that these cars were registered in the name of either individuals or institutions. So they might not be missing. What we need to do is to go after these persons or institutions that have their names registered with this. Now, national security is able to pick this one. Perhaps if we know individuals and institutions whose names these vehicles are registered, we can retrieve all of them.
Well, let me say good morning to the cherished viewers and to my colleagues. I think I've had opportunity to speak to this issue. And with regards to the example that you gave, where being if the vehicle is registered in the name of a person, then we need to go get the vehicle from that person. I think the premise upon which I mean a vehicle is registered in somebody's name, which is a state vehicle, in itself is wrong, because we are talking of state vehicles.
Not necessarily the vehicle registration, but it is assigned to the individual or the institution.
Yes. So if it is assigned to the individual, let's say as a lecturer, I'm given a vehicle that belongs to the university to be using in my official capacity as what? A lecturer. Once I leave that position, the onus lies on me to take it back. Immediately I do anything other than that, then it means I'm stealing it. And in this particular story, when you look at the story is quite interesting. And I find it quite unfortunate if it is true.
Right.
Because Joe Mello is somebody who is a star. I mean, he's a celebrity in Ghana. And he's somebody that people admire and people look up to. In fact, he's a role model to some people. So if it is the case that this has really happened, then it amounts to what? Theft. Where I find it a little bit interesting and incomplete is that, I mean, an action of this sort, where the individual was called, the individual was brought to the garage, the individual said, look, I brought this vehicle, and there's clear evidence of theft. He should have been arrested and at least, at best, granted bail. But I didn't hear anything of that sort. What I did hear was he said he needed the opportunity to go to the UK before he returns
the second car.
The second car. I thought that in itself is also problematic, because if a state vehicle, we are talking of a vehicle that belongs to the national security, and this guy has been apprehended, and he's caught, and he's agreed that, look, I brought a vehicle here. All the checks shows that, based on the story, the checks shows that the guy was trying to conceal the vehicle. I don't think he should have been left to go. But in any case, I would say, and as I've said a number of times, that look, when it comes to these vehicles and stuff like that, it tells you that as a country, we have a huge problem when it comes to what? Documentation of our property and stuff like that. Because if we are talking of vehicles which are visible assets, right, that you can see, then what happens to other finances? We talk of monies, we talk of deals and stuff like that, where documentation, proper documentation is not done, then I think it's unfortunate.
So, from what Dr. Jinapor has just told us, it looks like the story is incomplete if he was not arrested for this.
And that is how most these things cannot be stopped, because we treat them with kid's glove. Okay, the motive is that, oh, let's retrieve the car, and the man says that, oh, there's two cars. One is he gave to his girlfriend, and they should let him go to London. When he comes back, he would. You are in possession of a national security asset which you are trying to conceal, which is theft, like my brother said. Then you are being asked to leave the country. You are saying that, let me go to London and come back and then give you the second car. How, you know? We don't know how far the story is true, but like my brother said, if it's true, then there's a problem. There's a big problem. Straight away, he should have been incarcerated, given bail to return on the second day with the second car, so that the others who also have such cars will know that we are serious as a country. Look, we're talking about 78 V8s. We are a poor country. We all heard the president doing his sonar when he said that we only have 0.6% of room in our budget, where 99.4 is going through statutory allowances and all the debts we have to pay. And we now have 78 V8 that we can find. 78 V8, by the way, even if it's 100 million per one, that's $7.8 million. So what are we, who are we kidding? You know, we've made politics seem like an opportunistic event. That is why if you go to the grassroots, people will actually kill or harm somebody because of politics. Look, now new appointments have been done. You see these new CEOs and new now riding in V8s, and V8 have now become the pride of everybody who gets appointment. I know there's a policy where in Accra, ministers and government appointees are not supposed to drive V8s. There's a policy, and it was practiced between 2001 and 2008. Everybody has a saloon car. If you watch the president when he goes to the parliament, he doesn't drive V8.
Right.
President, when they go to the parliament house, drive in saloon cars, because V8 and the Land Cruisers are for external travel. So I don't see why now, as a nation, we are using Land Cruisers as a status symbol. And guess what? Who pays for the fuel in these cars? Me and you. Because they all have these chits. They go to Gulf filling station, they fill them up, and they drive them. And when they park them, the engine don't go off. They keep them, the engine on, so that the air condition will be on for them. Why? It's unfortunate. But anyway, back to the story. I think the national security should be more serious. The task force that's been formed should arrest and prosecute, not just retrieving of cars, to set as an example for future generations. And people should know that, look, don't just go into politics for what you can get. Politics is charity work. Let's try and help Mother Ghana to help ourselves.
Right, I'm grateful. Dr. Ofe, the director of the Drolo Center for Strategic Leadership at the University of Professional Studies, Accra. Now, The last time we heard about this was when there was a directive that even people who want to buy, government officials who are leaving office and who want to buy vehicles should not be allowed to. And yet that directive was flouted and these vehicles were bought. Now, those who didn't buy them are not bringing them up. Is it because, like Kojo said, we don't punish people and punish them well, or simply people feeling that I have served government and so I should be able to take a bite of it when I'm going home?
Right. I'm lost for words. And I think that, mark my lips, we shall come here next year. I mean next time.
In 4 years.
In 4 years. And we shall hear this.
It will happen again?
It will happen.
If there's a change?
It's not going to end now. You see, we have a system that believes in, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. What didn't we hear before, I mean, when there was that transition the last time? We heard all this. Then who were the people who were punished? Were they phantom ones? Ghosts that took the cars or what? I believe that these cars, before anybody was assigned, you know, that person, there was that documentation, and the person had their names and where they were going with the cars. Are we saying that we cannot go, we don't have anything, with the cars were just given to people, assigned to people? And for that matter, we should, I think the task force is even not necessary. For me, how long are we going to have the task force? Task force is supposed to be a short-term thing. So are we going to have the task force for maybe 4 years into President Addo's Nana Addo's government running? No. I think that it should be for the national security, you know, the security agents to deal with issues like this. Task force, for me, is not going to work. People have their own interests. And most of the, I mean, I would say that even the people who are on the task force may have their own interests. They know the people, they know where the cars are. They should go for them and stop this. I mean, they are wasting everybody's time. Why? A case like this, it's a simple matter. You found a car with the person. I mean, why should the person be left out? You're talking of, I mean, my brother talked of a celebrity in the name of our brother
John
Dumelo. I mean, what is it that we haven't heard about celebrities? In quotes, what is it? We have heard so many things. If it's scandal, we have heard. So this is no news for me. And I think that the security apparatus should do better than they are doing. Thank you.
Let me just add one.
All right, quickly.
I mean, I do not in any way want to more or less question the story that is being put out by Daily Guide. But I think when you look at it from the face of it, you have a lot of questions. Yeah. Look at the front page. It says, Dumelo busted with missing cars. Missing cars. But the story says there is one car that was seen.
No, there's two. One with his girlfriend.
They said there's an allegation that one.
Okay.
There's another one with the girlfriend.
Okay.
This particular one is seen.
Yes.
The other one, which is supposed to be with his girlfriend, has not been retrieved. Right. So when you say missing cars, it raises a lot of questions. You understand? And beyond that, when somebody is busted with a state vehicle which is purportedly stolen, where do you go? You go to the police station. There's no mention of going to the police station. Nothing.
And that's what Dr. Ofer talks about, you scratch my back, I scratch my back. Perhaps let's take it.
I don't think
when our time comes, we might not also get into policy.
No, it's not really stretch. I mean, I think that it is the effectiveness of
the system.
The system.
That's
you know
what
what I mean? It's effectiveness of the system. It is not about maybe yes, because I don't think the person on the task force can really keep the cars for themselves. But it is the effectiveness of the system. Or you could have people who could collude with others and say, look, the car costs 100,000. Let me give you guys some 20,000, and maybe you guys can keep it. Let me keep the car. But I'm not saying anybody is doing that. What we are saying is that, look, let's have an effective system, because we're not only talking about today. We've heard these stories before. We are going to hear it again. Why do we keep doing this to ourselves as a nation? Why can't we have laws that work, prosecute, and jail? That is the only way Ghanaians will learn. Unless we prosecute and jail, my brother, we are just wasting our time talking.
I'm grateful. Daily Heritage this morning talks about NDC 2016 campaign was unfair, says Agbeshi Nuchu, as he rubbishes tree campaign in the Volta region. Now, he's said to be a vociferous member of the party, and he says that the campaign was a fanfare with no direction. And said again, the campaign team lacked direction and focus as they were following the then President Mahama instead of forming groups and campaigning in different areas. He put the blame on the national executive, which he said failed to connect with various regional branches and local executives to move and have effective campaign across the country. This, he said, contributed to apathy at the grassroots level. That same story is also captured by the Daily Guide, but here it says Mahama boys under fire, and the story says that the humiliating defeat suffered by the NDC is unearthing a lot of secrets that were hitherto unknown to the public. The so-called experienced people in the opposition party are all now accusing ex-President Mahama of running a failed campaign by surrounding himself with inexperienced people, and that led to the party's crashing defeat. Could you let me start with you? Should the NDC look at the build-up to the defeat, or they should spend their energies on the defeat?
Well, you see, political parties in Ghana take us Ghanaians for granted. Look, people should stop talking about the campaign. Look, Ghanaians didn't vote on the campaign. We voted 4 years of a government. What we've been through, we sat here with NDC communicators. We sat here with members of parliament from NDC, and we're trying to tell them that, look, some of these things you guys are doing are not going down well. Some of your policies are not working. They look at you and tell you that, look, we are the ones in government, you are not, and we are the ones that Ghanaians have voted for us. Why are you the ones come and tell us this? But you see, now, when we use our time to now change them, when they didn't think we will, because they thought that if you tell Ghanaians that we have 8 years, oh, no, he's only done 4 years, please, he's entitled to 4 years, we'll give automatic, it's like an automatic thing that if you tell Ghanaians, we'll give you another 4 years. It's not. Ghanaians are becoming very savvy. Ghanaians are understanding politics. The radio, thank God, and to this platform like this, Ghanaians can wake up in the morning and listen in every dialect, be it Twi, Dagomba, Ewe, in every facet of the country. So people understand the issues, okay? And that is why we changed a government that was in place, the president in place for 4 years, and we changed them because we felt as Ghanaians, it was not working for us. Let's not, and they not, blame the campaign. What are you campaigning? You are campaigning based on what we Ghanaians have seen you do. You can't come and tell us that, oh, Dubai. You know, all these things that they think that they can tell us that, oh, Dubai is in Accra. And people in the villages will think that, yes, there's Dubai in Accra, and they will vote for you just because you think. No, it is how we see you, not how you tell us. That is why we have 4 years. And within the 4 years, if we do not think you've done well, we will change you. So it should be a reckoning for all political parties, be it the one in power now, Nana Akufo-Addo's government, that if they don't deliver in 4 years, Ghanaians will change them. You don't have 8 years. The mandate that we give you at 7th December with our term is 4 years. We don't give you 8 years. So if you don't deliver, and that's why the president said he's in a hurry, because I think he knows that if you do not, and Ghanaians don't see visible signs in 4 years, my brother, we'll change you.
I see. Dr. Fair, so you look at what you have done, and then you go campaign. Now the campaign goes wrong, and the whole blame seemed to be centered on the campaign period, which was barely about 4 or 5 months. Is that right to start from where you want to find out reasons why your party failed?
For me, I think I'll put it so aptly this way. I think is a naive statement.
To blame it on the campaign.
Yes. And I side into two with my brother Kwejo. I mean, how can you tell us in the face that is the campaign, just the campaign? I mean, fine, if there were a few mistakes during the campaign, how did you plan the campaign? And the person talking, I know the person very well, very vociferous. He was my student.
Your lecturer is talking.
But if campaign monies were supposed to go to community A and they didn't get there, if logistics was supposed to go to community B and they didn't get there, it means that the campaigning was, the whole thing was...
I don't think that is what he's talking about. The person is saying that you go to, I mean, they went to Volta region and they were speaking Chi, as if it's only Ewes that live in the Volta region.
Okay.
And for now, I mean, take it or leave it. We may not like it. Chi cuts across everywhere. Look, I lived in Tamale, and I thought people would rather be speaking, what do you call it, Dagbani. Most people were rather speaking Chi. Why? And for you to say that the campaign, I think that, look, when I hear things like this, people, look, I think the NDC, they were living on, it was a bubble. That was, with a matter of time, was going to burst. And for me, I think people should do a thorough analysis about what went wrong, rather than telling us all this. They had a lot of issues. I mean, people were saying a whole lot of things. I believe that they were hearing. The last time I heard, people were blaming it on the president, that he caused it, and that the wife went and put up a signboard in the Bronx Ahafo region, her own signboard. And so what? If somebody is my wife and I'm campaigning, and then my wife comes from the same place and says, yes, because I come from, people think that, she's into NGO, is that not it?
Yes, she was running.
And she was running, and people felt that she would be a face in the place. I mean, how did that one add to this, to their defeat?
So I think your point is that the build-up is the problem, not the campaign.
Not the campaign.
There were issues with the NDC, corruption, officials perceived to be corrupt and all that. The party didn't deal with it.
Yes, the party never dealt with, the sentiments of the people. The party never dealt with it. And a lot of things were prepared over. We can't recount them, a lot of things. So they should wait and stop all this, because they are wasting everybody's time with all this. They should wait. Professor Botche's committee is coming up. Soon it will come up. And people are talking at cross purposes, and I think if they want the party to... Look, what I see is that they don't have experience in, opposition. They should go and ask MPP. They had a lot of problems in opposition, yet they won. They won, why? Because they knew their problems and they dealt with the problems. NDC doesn't, they felt that it was a non-issue. Their problems were non-issues, and because of that, they have lost. NDC has lost. What they should do is sit back and learn from opposition. And I think that is what is going to help, rather than talking and blaming it on issues, things that are non-existent.
Dr. Jinapor, now if the party is insistent that the campaigning went wrong, then it suggests that the issues raised by Ghanaians, unemployment, corruption, the party still believe that it had done well in those areas, and so all they needed was to campaign and win. So if they're blaming the defeat on the campaign, then it means that the NDC up to now thinks that they did well in government.
I think you're right. You're right in the sense that I think this whole conversation needs to be put within a context. That being, we have a government that just lost an election. It's been in opposition for less than 3 months. And we have stalwarts within the party speaking. We are not talking of ordinary Ghanaians who are speaking about the cause of the defeat or the MPP. We are talking of stalwarts within the NDC. Kofi Adams, Ajay, Dr. Kobne Ajay,
The former chairman.
the secretary, the current vice, second vice. I mean, these are people who were involved in the campaign and the governance of what? Of the NDC party. And why are they talking? The team around which all this talks, the blame and the counter-blame, revolves around an individual, the former president, President Mahama. And not just President Mahama. These talks is as a result of some people pushing for President Mahama to go in 2020. That is what the whole argument is about. It's not about whether he's a good guy or not. Some people believe that, look, this man cannot and should not contest in 2020, whilst others believe that, look, he's the most marketed candidate and the person that we should send. The question that you started, no, I will get there. The question that you started with was that, look, does that mean that the NDC as a political party are confident that what they did as a government was the right thing? It looks as if that is the case. Because even if you look at, if you hear those who are opposing President Mahama, such as the vociferous Nabu, the MP, he did not talk about the performance of government, but he said, look, President Mahama surrounded himself with inexperienced what? Kids or boys who could not even...
And Dr. Ajay also said that.
Yes. You asked me about my position on this issue. My position on this issue is very simple. I heard, I think, is it my brother or Doc who said that they ran a ferry, is it a ferry campaign? Or is it,
he said it was a bubble.
Well, a bubble or whatever. But I think it's the buck stops with the president. If you ask me who made the NDC to lose, it's President Mahama. It's very simple. The credit goes to him and the failure goes to him.
He didn't listen to the electorate.
It's not about whether he listened. If you ask me, I've always said this, that when it comes to a certain president contesting, it's always a referendum on the performance of the president. It's always a referendum. And the system that we run in this country, where governance is so powerful in our socio-cultural environment, such that when you have a government in power and the person is doing something wrong, you can't say it, was what was happening under the Obama administration. In fact, people like Abeng Bagben tried to voice it. You remember Abeng Bagben making the claim that John Mahama is surrounded by people who were not involved in NDC, like Randy Abe and Stan Dugbe, but he had to quail back because of the system that we ran. What happened was that there was lack of leadership in the NDC. That's the whole thing. As to whether...
This was it. President Mahama was there. His chief of staff was there.
Yes.
And they put together a campaign team.
Yes.
So if
what
you
was
say
the
lack
result?
of leadership.
What was the result? The end justifies the means. What was the result? Leadership does not mean there was no individual. And that's why I started by indicating that what the buck stops with what? The president. I sit in here, I have a family.
Doc,
let me land. You differ. You can differ.
I will differ.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'll come to you. Let me finish.
I will differ.
No, yes. Listen, let me tell you something. And I'll give you a typical example. Yeah. In life, are you listening? When you are given a responsibility, you need to be accountable for it.
Yeah.
Nana Addo, at a point in time, if you remember, in 2008, when NPP lost, there were blame and counter-blames. In fact, Mr. Alan Chiramatin tried to resign. I use the word tried to resign because he said he wanted to resign because it was not handled well. What happened? The blame was partly pushed to President Kufuor. In 2012, when the MPP lost, what did they say? They said, look, we won the election, but we think that something went wrong. So they went to court to challenge it. In post-2012, when the NDC, MPP elected their candidates and stuff like that, Afoko, Kobne Agyapong and all these things, what happened? These people were removed. And you know for a fact, before they were removed, definitely the consent of the leader had to be sought. Yeah. People were saying there was division in the party. What is the results today? The results is that opposition candidate has won. Who is going to be credited? He's the one going to be given the credit.
I see.
You understand what I'm saying? So if today the president had all the resources of a nation, the resources of a party, and they went into an election. And in fact, as a matter of fact, look at the way the campaign was even run. Where the president himself stood on the platform and said, like, he's Hussein Bolt and all those things. I mean, what was that? Do you understand? Moving forward, I think the president will have to sit, the former president will have to sit down, reflect on his actions. I'm not saying that he will not be capable to come to contest. He stands the chance of coming, but you have to sit down and take a sober reflection and reflect. In life, we fall and we rise. Nana Addo lost twice. In fact, he started contesting for election somewhere in 1992,
Right.
Yeah. Something. He lost twice, so there's nothing wrong with that. He has to sit down and take a sober reflection and what? And make a decision. But he needs to know that this time, if he's going in on a disadvantaged platform. His people within the party are going to fight him, and legitimately so. They have to. They have to contest him. They have to fight him. All the mistakes that he made, they have to be corrected. When he's able to win the primaries, he's going to fight a candidate who has fought for this presidency throughout his life. And he won at a time that he was what? He was taught not to even to become a president. And he has the resources. So it's not going to be that easy. But I think in all these debates, I would say that the NDC losing was as a result of what? The president. There's no doubt about it. The buck stops with
the
what?
president.
The president, because he was the leader and the chief campaigner and the chief administrator of the NDC political party and the NDC government.
Could I'll come to you, but Dr. Fair wanted to react to the fact that Dr. Jinapor was suggesting the party lacked that leadership.
Yeah, there was lack of leadership.
Well, I won't go to the aspect of leadership. I will not go to the aspect of leadership. But I think that, remember I said something, that it was just a bubble. That was,
The foundation was weak.
it was weak.
But whose problem was to change that? Is the leader.
Sure.
So the whole premise of the party.
So let me advance my. It was a bubble, and you know, we are talking of leadership. Leadership in the sense that you are talking of two aspects of leadership here. Okay, he wasn't the leader of the party.
I think in the NDC constitution,
He
when
was
you become
President.
when you become a president, you're the leader of the party.
Yeah, so who was
It
the
is
leader?
So he
now
was the
that
leader.
they have no president, the
In the
leadership goes to the
NDC
chairman.
He was
The
the
chairman.
leader.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
So-
That's their constitution.
Right, that's their
constitution, yes.
constitution.
And even in
Okay,
practice.
okay.
Yes.
Then I think that I will go for.
Now you are
You withdraw.
Okay, thank
No,
you.
I'm not withdrawing in total. But for him to say that they lost it because he was the sole.
We should put the blame on
We should
him.
put the blame on
I
him.
didn't say you
That
didn't
is
get me.
where
No,
I
let
don't
me
want to-
explain. You didn't
because
get me.
It's just because he
I
leads
didn't
the
say
team.
they lost because he was the candidate.
But once
That's
he's
not
the
what I'm
leader
saying.
of the team,
No,
I
the
didn't
blame,
say
is
he was
put
a.
on him.
I didn't
Yes.
say they lost because President Mahama was the candidate.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, and
Yeah.
that's why I started by saying this thing needs to be posited within a context.
Yeah.
The context of why they lost.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that
Yeah.
in all of this,
Yeah.
him being the leader of the party, the president at that time, the buck stops with him.
Okay.
Credit or not?
When there's credit,
Okay.
it goes to him.
Kojo,
we can debate this.
Yes,
for lack of time.
Yes, let's move on. Let's wrap up
For
on
lack
this
of
one.
time,
Kojo, how should the NDC pick the pieces? They have started something, but it doesn't seem to be going well. How should they pick the pieces?
Well, the way they've started from January till now is not the way to go.
The committee going round?
the press
Not the
conference.
way?
No, the committee. I'm not talking about that.
Okay, right.
The press conferences and you see, look, when you lose election, you sit back, you look at the terrain. You see, our politics is dynamic. It's very youthful, and when it's youthful, it has a lot of room and ways to now change. So our politics terrain is changing a lot. The NDC from 8 years of His Excellency, may his soul rest in peace, Atamils 4 years, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama 4 years, they've come out. They should have just spent like 6 months watching the terrain. Within that time, leave the MPP who Ghanaians have voted in to settle. And then when you've now come in, the good things that they are doing, support it. Because when you support it, credit comes to both. Look, you can't support a party to implement good things and they only can take credit for it. The two parties can take credit for it. But the bad things they do whilst in power, criticize those things. You see, what we've seen since January till now is every time Nana Addo speaks, there's a press conference. Anytime there's a budget, there's a press conference. Anytime, even a budget has not been read and there's a 419 sign somebody's putting up. What is that for?
Could you not come on with politicians?
No, my point is that
they try to remain important. And
right.
so
the point I'm making is that the Ghanaian political terrain is changing. If you do not take note and you live in the bubble my brother talks about, you will be in opposition forever. Go into Europe, UK and find out. Everybody thought the Labour Party was a force that when Tony Blair was there can never be taken away. Now they are trying to find relevance in the UK. Conservatives, it doesn't seem possible that the Labour government will ever come to power. That is the point I'm trying to make. Yes, they can take the committee. That will be an internal party structure, how they conduct their campaign. But campaign is only conducted based on what? Based on your achievement, especially when you're in power. Now that you're in opposition, it's easy because you can now criticize the guy in power and you get along.
You look good.
You look good. But the point is that they should not just look at that. It is when you come back into power. Nobody around this table doubts that NDC will one day come back to power. When, we don't know. But when they do come back, would they listen? Would there be a party that do not think that if something is black, they will try to tell you there's a shade of gray? Would they now constitute events differently from the way they did it? Alleged corruption. I mean, I am very much on top of certain issues in certain segments of the past administration, and it's bad. Okay, it's bad. The way they've left certain things in certain areas is bad. So would they come back and put the right people in place? You understand? And do things differently. That is what Ghanaians want. We do not want, if Nana Addo's government do something good, then in 8 years or 4 years, Ghanaians will now come and say, oh, we want change. Then we change back to the next option available to us, NDC, because we want change. Only to now take 2 steps back based on the performance they gave us 8 years ago. So I am personally saying that, look, they shouldn't just look at the campaigning aspect of their work. They should look at how governance also work, because that is where, to me, they got it wrong.
I see. Dr. Jinapor, how should the NDC go? We are wrapping up.
It's interesting. I think, first of all, the NDC has taken the right step. The right step in the sense that they form a committee that is supposed to, is a fact-finding body to come out with, I mean, from the grassroots, what led them to lose the election. I think that committee is not going to come out with anything new. It's not going to come out with anything new because the NDC in itself knows why they lost, and Ghanaians know why they lost. And as I said, the Ghanaian people, the good people of this country, thought that probably the president did not do well, and that is a fact in the sense that when you have a certain president contested, it's always a referendum on what? On his performance. That said, I believe that, look, at the end of the day, as my brother rightly said, the NDC as a party will definitely come back to power one day. But for them to come back to power, they will have to do their work well. And when they are coming back to power, I expect that they come back to power at a point in time where this current administration have done so well, that the bar or the standard is set high, that you have to what? You have to move beyond that. It's not about promises. Yes, you make promises, but you are going to be held accountable for those promises. The NPP made a lot of promises. And I must say, the president needs to be commended because with the promises that he's made, even from now, it looks as if he's what? He's abiding by his words. Most of the things that he talked about, I thought they were things that could not be achieved. But there are things that he's made through his his words. I want to see a strong NDC as an opposition party. I want to see an NDC that is very united, an NDC that is ready and poised towards being able to what? To replace the NPP in the next elections. That will put the NPP as a political party and as a government on its toes. I don't want to see a divided NDC. That is not anything that any Ghanaian should look for. But with regards to the president, look, he's a very nice man. There's no doubt about it. He's done his part. He made some mistakes. If he didn't make mistakes, he wouldn't have lost by this margin. He has not even said whether he'll be contesting in 2020 or not. Yeah. And if he is, going to contest, I think he will have to sit down and reflect seriously on it, because it's not going to be an easy fight. It's going to be a very serious fight. It's going to be one that is going to be highly acrimonious. It's one that is going to be very dirty. And to be honest with you, he's not going to be the type that will be able to push the NPP as a political party around. So I wish him the best of luck.
Dr. Fair, wrap up for me on this one. The way forward for the NDC.
I think that the biggest disaster that will ever happen is that the president, the former president, will announce that he's going to contest now. I mean, in the
2020.
in the coming elections. That will be the biggest disaster. For me, I think that the president, the former president, he, just as my brother said, a fine gentleman. He should go back, reflect, look at the areas. Once you lose an election, that is when you should be doing better in your political career. If you lose an election, and I congratulate and applaud Nana Addo for that tenacity to actually come back. It shows the sportsman in him. Like he's always talking of he's in a hurry to do things. Just like the former, our late president, Atta Mills, who said that he was going to hit the ground running. And I think that the NDC will do itself a well of good if they sit back, stop this blame game. You did this, you did that. They all contributed to their undoing. And I think that the best they can do is to wait for Professor Kwesi Botwe's committee to come out with something, even though we all know the outcome.
It looks as if the committee is a panacea to
yes, even though we all know the outcome. I think that they should sit down and go into themselves and check, because it all started. I mean, if you ask me, their founder is also a contributing factor, and he should also check himself.
How did he do
Why?
that?
Why
Is he a contributing
I am
factor?
saying that it's a contributing factor.
For their
I
loss,
mean,
for their loss,
for their loss, for
but Rollins never
everything.
played any role in this.
I mean, let me
Dr.
talk.
Fair, how did he do it?
It's a contributing factor in the sense that right from the word go, I mean, that is your baby. It's your baby. You can't always do a ballroom, chat. You are always in the media talking and lambasting. I mean, why? Why should you do that? Did you ever hear
his pronouncement on public platform?
Public
you
platform.
think could have been done indoors?
Yes.
I don't share that. I don't share that.
Very quick. But
we're told that we Ghanaians know that you don't wash your dirty linen.
Well, we should change that saying.
No, that is true.
You see,
but we should change that saying. Yes, we should change it.
There's a problem in your house. You deal with it in your
That some of us don't know.
No, I don't know anything.
There's something that you do.
I don't know. Let me say something.
There's a problem in your house. So deal with it.
I agree.
Rollins has not been part of NDC for the past 8 years.
Who says so? Who says so?
Whether Rollins
He's part of it.
Part or not, he is an important player when it comes to the
But
NDC.
who says he's not?
You can't do away with that.
Who says he's not? He's the founder.
And his place is acknowledged and recognized by the NDC anytime they are doing any major program.
Yes.
And he's always been there.
Yes.
Okay.
The point that Doc raised, that Rollins' utterances might have led or contributed to the NDC losing, I disagree in the sense that, one, it is true that when you have a problem, you solve it at home. But the utterances and the pronouncements of Rollins,
The man started
let me finish. Was geared towards making the case that the Mahama administration was not doing the right thing.
You couldn't have done it indoors.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did not. But in any case, the results of 2016 goes to vindicate the man.
Yes, it's true. Were we not in this country? Were we not in this country when His Excellency John Jerry John Rawlings
Yes.
was booed in the stadium in Kumasi.
Yes.
So what are we talking about?
Yes.
The NDC gathered in Kumasi
Yes.
and booed their founder.
Yes.
What is your point here?
My point
You're
here is
saying
that
he was
look,
not given the chance
yes,
to clean the wrongs
His
in the past?
Excellency John Jerry John Rawlings has not been. Yes, my brother said he's been given that seat in a ceremonial manner. But his words has never been taken any serious in the last 8 years.
No, I don't agree.
You might.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
Let's spend the last 5 or 10 minutes on this one.
I don't
Daily
agree.
Graphic has this story. 12%, oh, I'm told I have only 5 minutes. 12% Ghanaians jobless, says the Statistical Service. This survey was conducted in December 2015. More than 1 million Ghanaians, constituting 12% of the labor force, are unemployed. This is a study by the GSS. Now, out of the number, 700,000 are unemployed. That's 12.5%. 700,000 are females, 500,000 males. These are the persons which the report says are unemployed. So if you put that together, we have about 1.2 million Ghanaians out there. At least we have the figure, because we have always argued that political parties or politicians have campaigned on unemployment and yet are unable to tell us the number of people who are unemployed. But let's quickly touch on this one. What do you make of this figure that is unemployed, and perhaps government effort at getting them jobs?
Well, it's a start. At least we are doing well to gather statistics on the unemployed. So it's a start. But I don't think we should read too much into it, because I think it's vastly inadequate in terms of the number. Look, if you look at even how much graduates, if you look at the number of graduates that come out of the universities alone,
the figures are not correct?
No, it's not. I mean, I'll back that by the number of just by the number of graduates that come out of university every year. Okay, that figure alone, I mean, I have my 2 best professors here who can attest to the fact that the numbers coming out of the university alone in the last 8 years is quite huge. So if you are now going to add the long-term unemployed, the graduate unemployed, and then the ones that have not even been to school are over the age of 21 or 18, which has, I think after 18, you can now attain full-time employment.
Right.
So if you are to add all that figures, but it's a start. Look, you can only solve a problem when you identify the problem. We've identified that this number of people are unemployed. Please, let's start to do something about it. Okay? Let's not start trying to build overheads and roads and try to say that it is jobs for the people. No, it is not. Ghanaians deserve better. We deserve industries. We deserve that we have long-term employment. Be it 400 Ghana cedis a month or be it 800 Ghana cedis a month. It's long-term. Don't try and let politicians tell us that because they are building a road from here to there, it will provide jobs. It doesn't. It is something that is laborious. It is something that is short-term, and it does not sustain a family. So what we want as Ghanaians, as Nana Addo has come to say he's going to do industries, I think they should spend time in fixing the basis of the problem we have. High lending of money from the banks, the power situations, and try to bring industry into the country. These are the solutions that will bring industries. Because if you do not bring industries, the job unemployment problem will remain.
Dr. Janapo, could you think it's a good start to get the figures, even though he has some difficulty with the number, 1.2 million?
It's interesting. It's an interesting, data that is being provided.
It was collected in 2015.
That was why I was
wondering why it's now being
the data
launched.
was collected November, December 2015. And this is a simple survey. It wasn't any serious study that was done. It's a simple survey. You just 6,000 households were sampled. And 6,000 households, such data should be easy to interpret. And if we are talking of 6,000 households, what we are looking at is that this is more or less a sample. It's a representation of what? The nation. And you always do that. So when you look at the data itself, it's quite interesting. It says that about 67% of the working force are employed. 12-point-something% are unemployed, which gives you about 80%. So what happens to the 20%? The 20% is not captured. Is it that they are retired? If the 20% are retired, then it tells you that we have a very high retired population. So you juxtapose that with what? Our national census. Then you see that there's a discrepancy. I look at when the data was collected, when the data is presented, the discrepancy in terms of what the data, and you put it within the spectrum of the statistical service in the eyes of the public. If you remember some time back, there was this whole confusion between
about their figures and all that.
about their figures. But Nana, I think I agree with my brother. The data cannot be that right. I believe that 12.5% is on the very low side. The unemployment rate in this country is quite above that. But as you said, it's a good start.
It's a good start. Oh.
It's a good document to make reference to. At least if I'm writing a paper on unemployment,
You can
always
start
make
from
reference
there.
to.
All right, Dr. Napam, Dr. Fair, please wrap up for me.
Yeah,
I ran out of time.
I think I side with my colleagues. 12% for me jobless in this day and age, where people are queuing to do things, even to sell dog chains and things like that, and we have only 12%, then it's problematic. And I think that it's worth looking at. And it is a simple survey, an action research, you know, and which, when I saw it, I was asking, what's the motivation for bringing this thing up right now? Because 2015, we are in 2017, and you have brought this. So we should be citing this as our problem. I think it's problematic in itself. But it's a good start, and you cannot rubbish anybody's research. Yeah, I think that it's a good start. I'm
grateful. Dr. S.B. Ofer is the director of the Drolo Center for Strategic Leadership at the University of Professional Studies, Accra. Dr. Ahmed Jinapor is a lecturer in University of Education. Kojo is an energy expert. Talks a lot about energy. If you have difficulties, just call him.
Well, Bright, let me take 1 minute of your time. I always try to do this on your phone, and I'm still having problems.
Thing.
No, not the expert thing. The Medina Junction, Zongo Junction traffic light. Please, I know the IGP watches this program. I know the police hierarchy watches this program. Because when they see me, you are the man on TV. They know me. Yes. So I'm sure they watch this program. We are begging them. Yesterday at 9:30, I spent an hour trying to cross at 9:30 at night. Yeah. Because the Trotros people hijack just after the traffic light. They park there. So it turns the 3-lane into a 1-lane. Please, we beg them to do something.
They spend so much money to expand the road.
Yes, they should do something about that Zongo Junction.
Yes, even if the IGP is not watching, the Medina MTT, and they are right there. They're right.
Why should they park?
I don't know.
Yeah.
They will bagel
9 o'clock yesterday.
So just around Medina and the headquarters.
The Zongo Junction, please, we are begging you.
The Zongo Junction area is indeed, and when you just go past the traffic light, there's a free flow all the way to
all the way.
And it's like that with all these major routes.
Please check it.
I don't know why the Trotro want to park just after the traffic light.
We'll see how the police will deal with it, but we'll put pressure on them to work on it. I'm grateful for your time. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bright.